This is the Spider the Net podcast in association with the BFG Podcast. Today, everybody is here, literally everybody from us, to give you an update to review the football field Norway and to give you an update on the World Cup so far. Holly's going to moderate for us today, so I'll hand over to her.
I mean, moderate's probably a fancier word. It's more just keeping the spiraling conversation so that we don't run for 3 hours straight, even though we could talk about the Ferns and the World Cup for many, many hours. So let's start with who went to the match and what was the atmosphere like. Let's start with that.
Okay. I'm going to, since you asked, wow. So I traveled up to Eden Park, and it was magic. It was phenomenal. It was the opening ceremony. I was 7 rows back on the midline. It was like a fantasy. And they had the most beautiful opening ceremony. Eden Park looked amazing. The crowd was in black, very sort of optimistic, just relaxed, happy. The volunteers and the professionals of the opening ceremony just like killed it. It was really gorgeous. Fireworks. It was a really special night. So I think I was the only one here out of the crew that went to Eden Park, and wow, and all I can say is it was my second Ferns match at Eden Park, and I'm so glad they had another match because that atmosphere was so intense, so powerful that there is power in imagining yourself there, right? And so even though it's New Zealand's national stadium, it was only the second time the Ferns played there. So, important night. It was, the weather was cool, but it wasn't raining.
Wow. That's cool. There's I always like to hear from people sort of reporting who went there and what the crowd was like and what the atmosphere was like. I'm always fascinated by that actual in-stadium experience. So I'm glad that you had an amazing time and it sold out and people looked super happy. It looked great on screen. So I watched it at a pub near Stadium Australia where I went to the Matildas game, which we can talk about. You can probably hear that I have lost my voice a little bit. When Hannah Wilkinson scored, I was screaming so loudly, I lost it. I don't know whether I'm going to get it back this World Cup, but so yeah, that's where I watched it. The others watched it at home. I think Dean watched it in the car.
Yeah. Second half was in the Uber on the way to Stadium Australia, and it was very difficult, but worth it.
Oh, so should we talk about the performance? I had not thought when I was thinking best case scenario for this match, I was like, well fought, narrow loss, lose by like 1 goal or something like that. Not in my wildest dreams did I imagine that we would have had a win. It was absolutely mind-blowing. We could not have had a better start. I know I'm speaking for all of you, but surely you have more to add.
Well, for me, it's like, because I watched some of Norway's games before last night, some of their older games, and from what the footage that I was able to find, they were really poor. That master plan worked like a tree. We just shut them down, and maybe Jonathan can come in with me on this. We just shut them down like anything. They couldn't get to us apart from the odd chance. Yes, they did have the odd one. But it was like by the second half, they were just exhausted. That's what I noticed. They were just like really exhausted, really tired. This is Norway. And it looked like they didn't know what to do. They were lost, which
Yeah.
is good for us, but not good for them. Yeah. So that's what I kind of figured. Does anyone else disagree, agree, have a different opinion?
I agree strongly. I think Norway, for me, didn't really show up, and the Ferns could pretty much do what they want, and it was magnificent to see. And you might have noticed in the first half, every time a Norwegian got in the midfield, there were two or three Ferns straight onto him, and that just set the tone. And my dreams, as coming back to what Holly said, I thought it was a scrappy 0-0 draw would have been great. That would have been a great positive takeaway for us. And for the first 3 minutes, I thought maybe that draws on, just watching Norway. But then they they didn't show up. Norway didn't show up. And as I say, it was just all about the Ferns. And for me, it was just like the goal's going to come, or if it doesn't, we're going to kick ourselves really, really badly. And just Norway let us do whatever the heck we wanted most of the time. They were quite insipid, I think. And I think if you're preparing for a World Cup, and your conditioning and everything like that, your players, I noticed there was a Norwegian that went down with cramp with about 80 minutes gone. And, you're not going to expect that from your team, surely. If your best player goes down with cramp with even 80 minutes gone of a full game playing, you haven't done your conditioning right, I don't think.
So did you guys see, I mean, if you were in the stadium, you probably didn't necessarily notice this, but I think it was that incident. The player went down with cramp. They're 1-0 down. They really want to win. Two of her players, they picked this cramped player up and ran and chucked her over the sideline. I mean, she was laughing.
Yeah.
But that was like probably the best moment of the whole game, other than like the winning part and the scoring a goal, was they just picked her up and just like sprinted her off the field and just plonked her down. But yeah, maybe they haven't done their conditioning right, and they probably weren't expecting to be chasing the game. And they were frustrated. They gave away a lot of fouls, just angry, like just you could see it was under their skin. Just yeah.
It was, and what happened was the Ferns that we saw last night, that was the same style of play that they played against Vietnam and Napier. And when we went and saw them in Napier, we were excited. I mean, we won 2-0. The first half in Napier was an exciting brand of football, and that's exactly what we saw last night. It was progressive, it was attacking, it was confident, taking their time on the ball. The midfield, Essen and Steinmetz really putting their mark on the game, the two fullbacks commanding the channels. This is what we've been waiting to see. This is the football that is attractive and will draw more people into watching the game. Yeah, just brilliant.
This is extremely, because I went back and watched I managed to find some of those old games too. This is very similar to the kind of football that Cody used to play in the A-League when she was coaching. I believe it was Canberra. So it was, if you go back and watch that old footage, it's very, very similar to what she used to coach at Canberra. And I found it quite interesting that it's taken her so long to use this formula. She wasn't using it before, because she won a championship with them, and then it took her quite a long time to implement the same stuff here. So I found that quite interesting. Does anyone want to follow up on that?
I think for the first time, I felt the Ferns were cohesive. Like in Napier, they were cohesive, but the team was weaker. Vietnam looked jet lagged, confused. They looked like cold. But the Ferns were playing a brave type of football, and they knew what they were up against. I mean, Ada Hedeberg. I mean, she's one of the top in the world. They they literally up against a star-studded Norway team. And they played technical, but they also went for those 50-50 balls like I've never seen in my life. Occasionally at the end they were like, okay, let's be a little bit more conservative about a few things but they went for it in a way that they put all of New Zealand and all of their underdog and all of this hardworking brand that New Zealand has. And they owned it. They said, okay, we're going to play in front of 42,000 people. How should we play? We should play like we are out of our minds. And this is the last game we will ever play in our life. And we need to prove it to this country that Maren Mjelde is not going to get us. That Ada Hegerberg is not going to get us. All these right is they're not going to get us. We're not going to be afraid. We're going to play as a cohesive unit. We're going to go for it. We're going to back each other up. We're going to play smart. So the way we work through the midfield, sometimes was just so they took the ball and made the perfect pass to Steinmetz. And then Steinmetz knew what to do with it. I haven't seen that in a long time. A midfield that really was clicking. And sometimes they just played route one ball, over the top, because they're like, we're faster than you and we're bigger and we're stronger than you. And you're tired and we're going to split those defenders. And that's awesome. So,
But like
yeah.
like I said, it reminded me a lot of, because I couldn't, after that Vietnam game, I couldn't put my finger on what was different. And then as soon as I saw that old Canberra footage, that's what it was. She's using a similar formula to what she used to use at Canberra.
I'll tell you what was different, a 9-week training camp. I can compare it to the U.S. The U.S. before 2019 went to England. They had this quality time together. They really formed a unit. Guess what? New Zealanders play all over the world, and they don't know each other. I mean, sure, they know each other from Zoom calls, but they don't know each other on the pitch. And they finally looked like a team that understood where each other would be. Because they could pass into space, and they knew people would be there. Not just because they're footballers, but because they actually had practiced those types of weighted passes. I don't know. So good.
I think
so good.
the worst thing about watching them in the past was just misplaced passes. They'd play a pass, there'd be nobody there, or someone had made the wrong run or something like that, and then to actually see, and it's that 9-week camp, that they're passing. And this is what we could have if we were a team that was actually able to play frequently together and have regular proper training together, because you're not flying people from literally the other end of the world, and you're not playing in wherever, some backwater, I don't know, in Turkey or whatever. Like, this is what we could have. But we've missed out on it. So the training camp, I mean, I'm assuming they paid them during training camp. So this is like a one good decision that New Zealand football has made in the last. You know how I feel about New Zealand football, but brilliant.
I went to one of the training camps in North Harbour about a month ago, and I might have mentioned to you, Holly, but the spirits were high. It was highly competitive. They were onto it, but they were all just one team, and they were just giving it their all. That's about a month and a half ago, and they were just smashing it at training, and it was like, wow, it's so good to be able to watch this, because this is a proper cohesive team even at that stage. But they were all very competitive. At a training round, maybe you're having a kick around afterwards and you're taking it easy. They were just full on. And when I was at that training camp, I thought, yeah, this is going to be special.
So what you just said, Denise, is exactly what Malia said after the game. And this is building on what Dean has just said. Malia said that when she laid off the ball, when she took a pass, the right people were in the right spot, and she knew they would be there, which is chemistry and relationship, and people just knowing that if you put the ball to the right or the left, someone is there, and you can trust them with the ball. And I mean, how good was that goal from the goal, like the goal. The ball was at feet. They just channeled. That's chemistry. Total chemistry right there. And again, that comes from being in camp together and understanding how each other plays.
7 passes. I think it was 7 passes. 5 players from the goal kick into the back of the net. A thing of beauty.
It's a goal of the century for them. It was all those technical things, where you pass a ball, but you want it to go quick, but then slow, and then you want it to go through and accurate, and that whip around at the end. The last podcast, that we were talking about, it was Blake, I don't know who else, Jonathan and I, and we said Wilkie's got to bring it, right? We were like, Wilkie needs to get her inner zen on, and at that moment, put it in the back of the net, because the highest percentage balls are right in front. And who plays right in front? Wilkie. And Wilkie delivered. Oh my God. She did it. She did it.
It's massive. And so she was player of the match. She was awarded player of the match. I think probably we all think she's player of the match. Who would your second, runner-up player of the match be? I think Jackie Hand had a cracking game. Other thoughts?
Steinmetz for me.
Yeah, I'm Steinmetz as well. I totally agree with you there, Dean. She had a blinder.
Yeah, those 2 players would be my player of the match. If I had a number 3, I'm going to go for Stottie. For the minutes she played, she denied some really important things. And if you we all understand her trajectory, right? Cancer survivor, really incredible stalwart for the back line. And I think she also played out of her mind.
It's unusual when you get your whole team goes into beast mode. And so really the player of the match was about 13 of them. So you have to be pretty special to stand out. And so the ones that you've mentioned there were they were beast mode plus, I think. So they were, it's hard to stand out in a team of champions, like with the effort everybody put in. It was.
I'll tell you something. Allie Riley used to play for Beast Mode Soccer. They're an outfit out of LA, and she brought it too. I mean, she really did. You knew if it was going to Allie's direction that she would just, generally speaking, have a sense of what to do.
The only crap moment the whole game was Rhea going for glory, trying to put it top bins. I'm there in the pub, and I'm screaming, everybody knows, every little kid knows, you just put it in the bottom corner. We'll just erase that from our entire consciousness. I was mindful that we didn't ask Jessie who her runner-up player of the match might have been, and also Blake. Now that I've talked about the one person who made a big mistake. Jessie, you'll have to unmute yourself.
No, otherwise.
Cool slippers.
Go for it, Blake. Why don't you talk about your players of the match?
We've got a
those
camera and a frozen camera, by the way.
And that fire looks warm too. Holy shit. Sorry, we just saw you slip at that. I want to go stand.
I've got manky old Ugg boots as well,
my
Jessie.
God.
Let's go to Jessie's house. It looks great.
And then, by the way, you got a frozen camera. Just
Okay.
so you know.
Do you want to give us the number of the player by mime? Jesse, if
No,
you
I
can't figure out how to. Oh, there you go.
Yes, yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know, but I just think they all play. Obviously, I'll go with your opinions, but no, I'm just proud of them all. That's not a very good opinion.
I think that's generally the sentiment. Like, people ask me, who's the superstar of the team? I'm like, no superstars.
That
They're
team.
just a team, right?
Yeah.
How about you?
That team.
Who do you got?
Oh my God. Let's see. I'm a bit like Jesse. They all play really well. No one deserves. They all deserve a big award of some description.
My battery's about to go on my phone, so if I disappear, it's not like I don't like you.
Your camera's frozen anyway, so it's okay.
Oh.
All good, Dino. Okay, so next match, we'll move on to that. In Wellington, Philippines. I believe every single one of us on this call is going to be there. Or am I wrong? Dean and I are flying over.
I won't
Oh,
be
Blake's not going to make it. Okay, all right. Denise is going to make it. Jesse's going to be there. Jonathan as well.
I'm at a game in Hamilton at that time, so I'm going to miss that one. But I'll be in Hamilton at Waikato Stadium.
Oh, choice. How good is this going to be, man? Home of football in New Zealand, in the Cape Tin, man. It's going to be great. So Philippines, not a bad team. I know that they lost to Switzerland 2-0 just now. They're not a bad team still. What do we reckon?
Well, my big question is who's going to play? Are people going to get a rest, or you start your main chemistry that's going on, and then you have some subs at 70, or what do you think? Like, who would you start?
Well, the thing is,
I was gonna say full team. We've got to treat, like, we need 6 points if we're going to move to the next. So if we get 6 points, we'll be in the next stage, basically. So I think we gun for securing a win. So just go for it. No rest, no mercy.
It's not only that. Philippines played really well at the time we're recording this. They played really well today, so there. Yeah. So yeah.
I agree, Holly. We push for the 3 points to make sure, and then the third game, that's when you sort of give everybody else a go and give the rest planning for that. But given the way that we played, I can't see us losing or drawing. If we just bring the same game as we did, and the crowd is again is going to sort of be the 12th player, and that's going to just make a hell of a difference. So I would say 3-0.
Yeah.
To the Philippines.
The final thing I want to say on the FernsNorway is that image of Wilkie is going to go around the world hundreds of times now for the next couple of years.
It's also good for scaring vampires as well if you cut it out and paint it silver.
Dean, you really made a really cool. What do you call those? Like
plaques,
maybe, I don't know.
Plaques,
bits of wood,
bas reliefs. Yeah.
firewood waiting to happen.
Yeah, and what I'm going to say is there is something, and we're going to go back to another interview that Blake and I did and Jesse did of Nell, right? Nell Jonganil. And there was something about when these jerseys, and whatever you call them in New Zealand, kits, slicks, when they were passed out, and there were some 1975ers around, and there were some ex-Ferns around, there was a pipeline of people who could share some wisdom. And I think that mattered. I think it mattered around the grit of it. Yika said, I want it to be gritty. I'm like, okay, well, you've had some gritty players in the past. Sorry, Dean and I have been going back, with the exception of Ursig not being around, who's renovating some homes at the moment.
Looking for some grout.
Like, come on, but there were, what we lacked in Herzeg, we got in all these other ex-Ferns coming back, handing these kids out saying, go do it. Go do it. We've done it. You know, the 1975ers, they were champions. You know, they won something, right?
Mm.
I really think there is a different thing. The obvious is 42,000 people at Eden Park screaming their guts out for them. I'm laughing because I scream my butt off as well. And I my throat hurts, but that matters. You know, the history, the atmosphere, the home crowd, the expectations. New Zealand's a gutsy place, right? And you guys honor hardworking people. It's not just magic on the ball. It is like the country knows that they've had a hard history. The country knows they've not been winning. And now that they're winning, there are eyes on this team that I just love. Just beyond the wall, there are people outside watching these other matches. I love this. It's that spark of getting hooked, which is just magic.
Just on that Philippines game, I totally agree with Dean and Holly that we just need to go all in. Like, just go for gold, go for the 3 points. And the thing is that even if we traded out, the starting 11 for another starting 11, I reckon our second starting 11 could still wipe the floor of Philippines. I don't think the Philippines are that good. And if you're going to bring in a Grace Jale, a Liv Chance, you've got all of our the backup 11 that we've got. The Ferns have depth. That's what I'm trying to say. Claudia Bunge, we could do it. I think we're just going to absolutely wipe. I really, fingers crossed, I hope we wipe the floor of them. Not because I don't like the Philippines, but just because I so badly want the Ferns to win and to go through to the round of 16.
Yeah, but even though they lost, Philippines played quite well on the day that we're recording this video. They played quite well against the Swiss.
I think I noticed that the conversation that seemed to come from New Zealand when we drew the Philippines was, the Philippines will be easy. And I feel like if you had been in Australia, you saw the Asian Cup and you saw a lot of focus on the Asian Cup. The Philippines got to the semi-finals of the Asian Cup. They did better than the Matildas in that Asian Cup. And so they've had this reputation of not being great, but they've got a solid coach. They've gone and they've recruited from their diaspora. And they've got a strong team. So I just kind of felt this disconnect where, like, New Zealanders will be like, it's just the Philippines. And people who actually had really, really watched and talked about the Asian Cup were like, don't push it. I hope we do. I think wipe the floor is a bit mean. We're not wipe the floor, rub it in kind of people. But I do hope we win. That should secure it.
I have a weird point, and my weird point is a lot of these players have played in the cake tin at least a dozen times, right? Mm-hmm. Like, they kind of spatially know this pitch. I would bring in the Mickey Fosters. I would bring in more of the Phoenix, more of the A-League athletes, because there's a level of comfort on that particular pitch that may, that may help. And may give some legs a rest. I get it. This 11 has chemistry. They put in Claudia Bunge. They put in Paige Satchel. I mean, two fan favorites of us for sure. And for very tactical reasons they did that. And I think Yikke did a very good game plan on this, especially putting in Claudia and Paige at the end. Paige was like, Route 1, give me Route 1. I don't know if you could see it on the broadcast, but she was like constantly going, give it to me that way. You're tired, put it up and over, and I will go and get it. And I just thought that was brilliant because, at that stage of the game, the 80-something minute, you need to just kick the ball out of your defensive zone. And when you got the fastest kid on the block to go get the ball, it was a good move.
But I kind of agree with Holly, though. We can't underestimate them because they've got a good setup, a good coach. Their coach was underrated when he was in the men's A League and I think it was Matildas, was it?
Mhm.
Yeah. So he was he's underrated at both of his previous jobs, and he's always proven that he's a good coach. Like we said in the previous pod, he's a very underrated coach.
I don't know that he's underrated. I think
Yeah.
he was really successful, I believe, in the A leagues. His tenure at the Matildas was extremely controversial, and it's still a discussion that brings up a lot of emotion from Matilda's fans, and it's quite complex, and some of it is quite toxic. And so there has been a lot of people who have been angry that Stage was kicked out or left, and that Gustafsson's come in. But yeah, I don't know that he's underrated. But
reason-
the Philippines are a little bit underrated, I think.
The reason I say that is because of how he was treated at MacArthur, for how well he did. That's my basis.
My final kind of reflections on the game last night was when the whistle went right at the end, everyone got to see what it meant. Ellie Riley bawling her eyes out. The whole team rushed the field. Grace Jale, who hasn't had any minutes for the Ferns, but is Jackie Hand's roommate, grabbing Jackie and just embracing her, and just the emotion, just the whole, and then Ellie Riley put on her Instagram 16 years of hard toil and work to get to that moment. That's what it means to the Ferns, and that's what it means to us as fans. Just wow.
It was a fairy tale. You couldn't have scripted it better.
My final point that I'd like to make on the game would be the stoppage time. And we were talking about this on Twitter today about, do we feel like the new stoppage time rules is inconsistent?
I don't think it's inconsistent. I just think you either love it because it's a really long chance for you to get back into the game, or it's like the most torturous 9 minutes of your entire life, which is what it felt like.
It was the hardest 9 minutes. I mean, we were freaking out in the stands. We were freaking. I don't know if you could hear it on TV, but there were whistles like,
Yeah.
like people. I don't know how long it went. Some people said it went 11 minutes or something like that.
It was 10 and a half by my watching.
My God. It was crazy. First of all, we couldn't believe it was 9 minutes. And second of all, we in the stands, we knew we were on the precipice of this incredible moment. And listen, if Rhea Percival had nailed that penalty kick, it would have felt different. But because it was like, it was, you feel it. You all feel it right now. It was just like crazy ball. We weren't sure what was going to happen because these are superstars. Hindenburg could just knock it in because she's that good. And the whole stadium was egging them on. And when that whistle happened, everyone broke out in like cheers and dancing, and we were just freaking out. Like we didn't even know what to do. Eventually, after about 5 minutes, I turn on my phone and everyone's still, no one's moved an inch. Like everyone's still just like freaking out. And they went around the stadium to like thank the fans, and that's always appreciated. Two people. So I think, I was in the stadium and I saw Allie just go to the middle. I love Allie. There's something awesome Hollywood about her, but it's also authentic. And she just bawled and waved to people, and people waved back. And then again, one of our fan favorites, not many people, most of them went into the locker room. Paige took off and came to the corner to to 213 to where her family was. I don't know if that was seen on TV, but she just took off, and she had a massive posse of satchels waiting for her. She was the only one to like really hit the stand, and her family was so happy, and I got a little high five from her, and her parents were just, so ecstatic, and I think she was the only one. I think everyone else was sort of business mode. We're not doing autographs tonight. We're going in. But she just made that effort. Like, I'm going to love this moment. And I think, I mean, I would have loved to have seen that locker room, but all of us know, like, everyone here gets it. Like, there's a lot of new fans out there, right? But we get the hard times, right? The Feedies have not had a winning record for the last 2 years. The Ferns have not had a winning record for the last 2 years. And as 6 fans sitting here, I don't know if Dean's gone. Dean looks like his phone went off or something. But we get it. Like Dean sent a message that, he was like weeping this morning. Holly, you said you didn't sleep. I didn't, I was woken up in the middle of the night, and it was so exciting. And no one left the stadium. I mean, it was like, I don't know, 20 minutes at least before people started even thinking about leaving. What a great night.
Absolutely. And sorry, Dean.
So did you notice when Ali was doing her interviews, she was getting her hands on camera. She was going like that and going like that. And I didn't really understand why. But then if you look at her nail polish, it's the LGBTI colors on her fingers. And because FIFA had banned that for the captain's armbands, she was like circumventing that and saying, up you, FIFA. And I thought that was such a nice and clever touch from her. And perhaps maybe all the captains are doing it. But
do you want to know the irony about that? You were asking Denise what they were doing in that locker room. Well, there's pictures floating around of, at least I've seen one, of them with the Prime Minister and the Sports Minister. And I could be wrong, but I think I even saw one with the FIFA president. So that was the irony about that. They were partying with probably the 3 biggest figures in the delegations right now within the government and FIFA.
Incredible. It's absolutely, like, the entire thing is incredible, and I think we'll still be buzzing for a long, long time to come. And it will be one of the greatest sporting moments in New Zealand history. It will go down as, like, maybe not the greatest, but it will go into that Hall of Fame. That moment, that goal, that final whistle. I'm going to be that guy and say, let's wrap this up on the Ferns. We did want to talk briefly about the Matildas game. Dean and I went to that. 74,000 people showed up. Absolutely mind-blowing. 74,000 people. I mean, that was just crazy. And being there was amazing. And I think see, the Matildas played, I think, differently. So, like, the Ferns seemed to play out of their skin. Like, they were just, like, they knew the stakes, and they knew what they had to do to win, right? Matildas looked a lot more relaxed, and they can afford to be relaxed because they're a very, very good team. They're a very, very good team. But it took a penalty for them to beat Ireland, and Ireland got really close. That last 10 or 15 minutes, I was actually a little bit surprised that Ireland didn't win. Sorry, didn't score. So Dean was with the Matildas active. How was that?
It was great being with them. They're a really great bunch of people, and they were sort of standing up, and they're very passionate about their team. Sad thing was, there was about 50 of them. And it just would have been great to have the rest of the stadium just for once, just stand up and get into it, and make an incredible noise for the Matildas. But I would say the active were fantastic to be amongst. I sort of joined in with the clapping and singing and that, because as you do.
It
Got
was,
all hard. When in Rome, Holly. When in Rome.
I think
Yeah, it was just sad. And for me, actually, it was sort of after the New Zealand game and watching the quality of their performance. I found it quite a dour match. It was even boring, just feeling each other out. People were just saying, well, this is the match that, they don't, it's the match they don't want to lose. Rather than New Zealand was, we don't care, we want to win. It looked like both teams sort of seemed to set up a little bit like that. But for me also, it's maybe sort of like to a rugby analogy, perhaps. Sam Kerr is the Jonah Lomu sort of factor, where years ago it was just like, pass it to Jonah, he'll do the rest. And when there's no Jonah, well, there's no Sam Kerr. I mean, yes, they found a way to win, but I felt that the people in her absence that are filling in, maybe Courtney Vine, and maybe this is down to the coaching of the Irish, they were shut down sort of relatively quickly. I didn't see Courtney Vine get to use her speed or pace, and Ali Carpenter the same. But
they played very defensively, didn't they, Ireland? They sat relatively low block, and that's where you get a game that's a bit staid. Did anybody else? Did you guys watch it as well on home at TV?
I did, yeah. As I said to you, Holly, I think without Sam Kerr, that's their World Cup goal. And yes, I know this analogy, you shouldn't rely on one player, but she is key. As I said last night, she is key. And without her, their World Cup basically dead before it's even started.
I mean, she's only out for 2 matches. She's only out for 2 matches. She'll be back. They are a capable team. They can win. Their next game's against Nigeria. They can win that. They do have a lot of quality. And I think, so one of our little corner of yellow friends who is an Australian and supports the Matildas, he said, look, maybe Sam Kerr not being there isn't a bad thing, because otherwise it's all just like Route 1 football. Just play the ball into Sam and she'll score. And if Sam's not there, they actually have to play a little bit differently. And that can be good. I love that they kept it a secret until team sheets were released, though. That was very smart.
I'm going to just say this. Who knew that it would be Wilkie stealing the show on opening night and not Sam Kerr?
Not Sam Kerr.
I mean, she just like pounded her chest and was like, it's mine. Like, Australia didn't do that, right? They have great players. They played very well, but it wasn't heroic. There was nothing like fist pumping about it.
I think Sam Kerr would have done a backflip, and I that's something I would still very much like to see if we get to, is Sam Kerr doing a backflip in front of 75,000.
If she's out with a calf injury, she's
maybe she's no backflips for her, but that's sort of the moment that I think everybody is looking for in Australia, is like, that will be one of those defining images, and you're going to have to do a plaque of that, Dino, if that happens. Any thoughts on the other matches that were caught? So Canada beat.
No, they drew in the end. It was a 0-0 draw.
Sorry, there was a draw in the end. My bad. And then there was the Philippines
Switzerland
game where they lost to Switzerland. And there's a game on at the moment, which is Spain-Costa Rica. I don't know what the score is with that. I don't know whether we want to. Oh, already.
That's right.
Yeah, Spain.
30 goals have been scored.
30 goals.
So the Canada Nigeria game, Canada were at 6s and 7s. The Nigerian team were really good. They are fast. They have some strong footballers in their team. That they didn't do enough to beat Canada. I don't think they ever looked like beating Canada, but Canada never looked like winning. That was my takeaway from that match.
Yeah. I just say good luck to the Matildas.
Oh, look, I don't. I mean, I know we're having a healthy, respectful disagreement, and we'll see. The proof is in the pudding, mate.
No. All I'm saying is the way Nigeria played today. That's what I'm saying.
Listen, I saw Canada Sinky really not nail a penalty shot, right? And I was in a bar with a bunch of FIFA people and just like a bunch of it was great. We were at the Occidental bar in the middle of downtown Auckland, and there's hundreds of people there that don't look like women football fans. They were in their this and that, and everyone was glued to the Sinky penalty shot. And it's a combination. She blew it, and then the keeper got it, and the whole place just burst out with like whatever noise they needed to make at that moment. And Canada's had it rough. You probably know that they haven't been paid in like a year. They're fighting with their federation for they cut their. This is a team that won the Olympics, and their budget was cut. And they haven't been paid. They're tired of this kind of stuff, and I think it shows. Listen, they also have superstars as well, but Sinky will often give that penalty kick to someone else, and Sinky took it, and it didn't work out. And my goal of this whole tournament, though, is to have no fakers. Like, one of the things that pisses me off about men's football is the drama and this kind of thing. My goal is no fakers. Whatever happens in the box, let's just make it a natural rhythm, not I'm going to fall, I'm going to do this. And there's been a little bit of that going on. But
all I will say is the St. Clair to play as well as she is at her age is remarkable.
She's 40.
Yeah. To play like that at 40 is remarkable.
She's remarkable. She men or women, she's the highest scoring athlete in football ever.
But you don't see many 40-year-olds in any sport play that good.
Not many. There are a few. Tom Brady is one of them.
Amazing. I'm gonna be that guy again. Rapid fire. Philippines, New Zealand. I'm gonna say New Zealand 1, Philippines 0. Blake.
3-0 to us.
Dean.
3-0 again.
Denise.
2-1.
Jess.
New Zealand.
You might have to use your.
I'd say on a 2-0 to us.
2-0 to us. Jonathan.
I'm sticking with the boys. 3-0 New Zealand.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll be there. Well, some of us will be there. It'll be freezing. It'll be great. I love it. Thank you for everyone who listened to us basically gush for way too long about this incredible event that happened. Thanks to the 5 of you for having this chat. Thanks to anybody who has listens to this podcast or listens to any of our podcasts. Like, we love doing this. We love talking about this. Enjoy the rest of the tournament. We'll have another one out when we beat Philippines either 2-0 or 2-1 or 3-0. All right. Bye, everyone.
Taika's going to make a movie about it.